as Scott mentioned, I'm the executive director for the Maumee Valley Growers. I've held that position for about 10 years. The Maumee Valley Growers started at the University of Toledo about that time as a white paper done between the University of Toledo and Bowling Green, because we realized that the growers in this area, I'm talking flower growers, okay, we're going into a decline cycle. You know how business cycle works, it's a sideways S, you know, start here, you got the early adopters, you got the sweet spot, it's a decline. Here we're starting to decline, so we wanted to move them back up to that sweet spot, mature area, where we operate much efficiently. And I think we've done a decent job. We did focus, and we do focus on floriculture, other than the last year or so. And that's what we'll focus on today. We do have about 70 growers in Northwest Ohio in our organization. All of them are greenhouse growers. Some of the greenhouse growers also plant in the fields. We have a couple of hydroponic growers. We have some nursery landscape people that cross over. And we also have some food folks that cross over, about 20%, 20%. So you can see the blend of our farmers. And then again, it's primarily Northwest Ohio, because the grant restricted it on that famous Ohio-Michigan border, the state of Ohio. Doesn't make sense, but that's the way it is. A year ago, we were certainly recognizing the importance of providing local food to the area. That's been going on for at least 7, 8 years, 10 years, whatever, for a while. But the crescendo of the importance of local food really started becoming a little more intense in the last 4 or 5 years. It got to the point where we started asking the question, wait a minute, are things changing again from flowers to food? Because some of you may or may not know that in the 60s and the 50s, these greenhouse farmers, 1 and 2 generations ago, grew food only. And because the food ended up as an export to California, Mexico, and Florida, warmer climates, they had to figure out what to do to survive. And it's in those late 50s and 60s where they moved over to flowers. And the flowers have been very good to them ever since. So we're questioning, wait a minute, is this going back? So because of that, we wrote a feasibility study a year ago to ask the golden question. And the question was, should there be a food hub in Northwest Ohio? And you're going to say, what? And it's the food hub. Well, a food hub, for lack of a better explanation, is a term that has become popular in the last 5 years nationally, not so much here, that describes simply an aggregation company that also does distribution. Okay? Aggregates means they take food together, goes on a dock, mix and match to the orders, together in the orders, and they deliver. Okay, that's the food. Now, a year ago when we did the feasibility study, I kept asking the question, do we need one? Everyone said, yeah. I said, why? We don't have one. I said, oh, okay. All right. Cleveland had one. Cincinnati had one. Not at the time, although they came out. Detroit's a great example with Eastern Market. There's a smaller variety, blah, blah, blah. So by consensus, it seemed like it made a lot of sense. Everyone supported of it. I even went to the distributors here in town and said, look, we're doing this grant. It's just going to cause you pain and sorrow because it's kind of what you're doing. But we don't want to compete with you because we're taking public sector grant dollars and doing this study, and we're not going to compete with you because you just don't compete public sector dollars with private sector dollars. Real bad. Going up the years, not a good idea. So,
can everyone hear in the back there too? You guys good? Okay, good.
So we did the feasibility study. It said go for it. Great, big write-up. Lots more information involved than just what I told you. But there was a lot of support in all kinds of ways from farmer to farmer. Okay. So I went and followed up with that feasibility study with a grant called the Food Pump Grant. Toledo being the area, specific to the Area Street Market building in downtown Toledo, where we have our food desert. Makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. Local grant, it's a large grant, it's a $100,000 grant. We were awarded it last October. It required $33,000 match, which I got from the University of Toledo, University Healthcare Systems, the Lucas County Children, Lucas County. Required a 25% match on $100,000, which comes out to $33,400. And you'll say, well, that's not 25%. But it is, because $133,400, $33,400 is 25%. So you don't take 25% of the grant money, you take 25% of the So that's a little fuzzy math, but it works.
Cool. We proved this money, you go out and
oh, yes.
bring them in. How many people did you talk to before you finally got some people to get into here? Were you real successful right away?
Every person I talked to got in. And when I got
good. I like that.
And when I got my match,
Yeah,
I stopped.
good.
Yep. But it's all based on relationships too. You have, first of all, you got to select the right ones, and what's in it for them. There's always got to be something in it for everyone. Everyone's got to win. So, got the grant, Food Hub. All right, it was awarded. It's an implementation grant. It's not a feasibility study. Not something you'll do, put on the shelf, get a lot of dust on it. Implementation means you have to do it. You got to do it. So I said, okay, we got it, now we're going to do it. Within a very short period of time, and again, this dates back to October 1, 2015. Within a month or 6 weeks, we quickly realized that Toledo does not need a food hub. And I thought, I'm doomed. What do I do? I'll give you the reason, then I'll give you the solution. The reason we discovered we didn't need it is, remember I told you all the other places that had it, you should probably have it too. Everyone said, yeah. Well, when you dig in the weeds and in the bushes, you really get down to the details, what it amounted to was the Toledo area really already had a food hub. And who was that? It was your existing distributors that worked collaboratively together and competitively together. Primarily, Open, Chariot, Alpine, and the other one on the coast there. But collectively, they were doing what a food hub does. So we looked a little deeper into it. Food hubs are perfect. Firstly, in rural areas, because they don't have a place to collect food. Okay? So that's kind of how they started out. But it's grown to be popular in urban settings too, especially when it comes out to community outreach. So, once we realized that we would be competing directly with the private sector, they're already doing what they're supposed to do collectively, we had to make a tough decision, because I had to call, this was a federal grant, I had to call Washington, D.C. and say, thank you very much for the money, but here's what we got. And she kind of laughed a little bit. And she says, okay, what are you going to do? I said, well, that's a good question. She says, what I'd like to do is explore it a little further. Let's see if we can find a solution. Let's see if we can, instead of competing with the private sector, let's see if we can find a a space, a niche, where we can augment what already exists. Okay? It's fun. So, the 6-month report came around, I wrote the 6-month report, and that's exactly what I wrote. And then I listed a whole bunch of stuff as to how we can be helpful to the community. Now, having said that, you're probably thinking, okay, let's get a little more specific. What does this really mean? That's kind of the background, and that's where it went. Now let's talk specifically. The grant really had 3 initiatives, but considered a 2-pronged approach. Number 1, create wealth with our small farmers. Increase their opportunities to grow their business. Okay? That's number 1. That's a sustainable requirement, meaning if we're going to put this group together, it better pay for itself after the grant. Number 2, reach out into the community and help food desert areas that are just the way they are in Toledo. We don't have food shopping centers around here, although ProMedica just opened one down the road here. But there's a lot of things you can do with each of these. So I'll talk about some of that real quick. So I'm a business guy, that's my background. Master's degree in business and then education is my bachelor's degree. So I started thinking business-wise, so how do you sustain this? Boy, this is going to be a problem. You don't want to put this, you don't want to spend $100,000 and come up with nothing. Nothing. Boy, that'll really read well. So we hooked up with one of our distributors who is providing most of the food for ProMedica. Okay? And remember, I went to nursing for Grant, Mitch, and others. But everyone eats, and everyone uses food, and everyone uses institutional providers. So I went to ProMedica and asked them, would you be interested in purchasing locally grown food? Obvious answer, of course we would. I said, great. And they use one of our distributors. So I said, I'll tell you what, we're not going to compete with our distributor, we will partner with this distributor. And I will go to the farmers, the small to medium-sized farmers at most, those farmers that are generally not doing wholesale work or institutional. Institutional, by the way, means that would be the hospitals, that would be the universities, that would be things like that, so really large employers. So I went to ProMedica. It was tough getting numbers for obvious reasons, but I got some numbers that seemed pretty exciting. But strike 1. Or is it maybe now strike 2, I'm not sure. But here's what I found out. If they did, and I'll make up a number to show by example, if they purchased, say, $300,000 worth of fresh produce, I got excited about it. I said, great, that's what the farmers are. You tell me what you need, I will get it for you, we will grow it for you. Okay? We'll start slow, but that's what we'll do. A month goes by and you go, I visited the kitchen, ProMedica's kitchen, and others, and I thought, I think I forgot to ask one of the next most important questions. And that is, okay, you're buying $300,000 worth of fresh produce. How much of that is really raw, fresh produce? How much of that is processed produce? Answer, 90% is processed. And I thought, oh, I'm doomed again. This will not work. Again, the example, $300,000, 10%, 30 grand. I'm not going to waste my time. Okay? Or the farmers or anyone else. So we looked into processing. What we do know is it's something we don't want to get involved in with the safety rules and regs as referred to. Probably one of the most stringent regulated parts of the food industry is in processing. However, there are two people that process in town. One is one of our distributors, the one we're not working with at this time, and the other one is SIFT. Has anyone heard of SIFT? Center for Food Technology down in Bowling Green. It's an incubator, and they have maybe a dozen small businesses like Stacy that are in this process of taking their idea and expanding it, and making their dream reality, and making it more of a business than a sideline. And they have to do, in many cases, processing. Taking tomatoes and making paste, and making tomatoes and making sauce and all that. That's just as small as those others. So we have options on processing. We kind of put it off for a while. Saying, yeah, I'm going to give you this, you can read this. This is an early email. This is folks that you're probably going to talk about today. So I don't catch you up on that. So I get a call a couple of weeks ago from a large food distributor in the Cleveland Akron area. We're actually going to be providing the food for the Republican convention coming up in a month, or sooner, I'm not sure. And the vegetables. They don't have any presence in Northwest Ohio. None. They got it. So they need someone to either be a sales rep, or they need someone to coordinate the effort of the farmers. And they will come here and pick up what our farmers grow. And guess what we're not doing? We're exporting, and we're not competing with our people. I know Marcy will get a kick out of that if we can pull it off. It's still there. So here we are, working locally with America. Here we are exporting. Now we're creating something here for our small farmers that never had this opportunity. Why don't they have this opportunity? They don't have this opportunity because the distributors, they want to dig around with the small farmer. It's too much. It's like corralling cats. It's ridiculous. You know how farmers are. They're very independent guys and gals. It's tough. But all of a sudden, now we're building critical mass. So, these are our two objectives at this time with this so-called food hub that it's not going to be. So, you missed that part. There's a new term out here, and I can never remember this. Let me see where it's at here. Oh, value chain coordinator. That really is what describes what we're doing. That substitute value chain for food chain. And again, food chain starts with farmer's field and ends at the table. Well, at least it's supposed to, because people forget the next step, which is composting. Okay, that's important too. So, the Maumee Valley growers, through this so-called food hub, is actually turning out to be a value chain coordinator, which is really better, because what we're doing is we're taking all these dots on the walls and on the maps of all these farmers, all these food desert areas, all these people that are underserved, all these restaurants, all these institutions, and we're connecting them. Because no one's doing it. Because everyone's working in their own silos, which is normal, very common, and they have to because they're going to be really good at what they do. So that is kind of rising to the top as to what our mission is turning out to be.
Facilitate.
Yeah, that's another good word. Absolutely.
Good. Somebody's got to do that.
Yeah, now the trick is when you look at it financially is, okay, am I a middleman, am I a broker? Yeah, probably. So it adds cost? Yeah, but it can't. Someone's going to have to eat the cost in the center. It's going to have to be shared eventually. Right now it's not an issue because it's grant funded. But it goes back to the sustainability. Let's look at it long term. So if we can create a system that makes the most sense, and this is not unique, it's unique to Toledo, but it's not unique around the country. We can do it. And by the way, a little stat. I went to the University of Vermont for a food hub certification program that lasted about 4 months. And out of the 28 food hubs that were there nationally, 28 that were there, 26 or 25 were losing money. And I kept saying while I was there, and this is before I found out some of the stuff I mentioned in kind of our way, I kept thinking, why am I here? What am I going to do this for? The odds are not good. So, and the biggest mistake people make in this industry, what I'm talking about, is they depend on grant money for operational dollars. Bad. Don't do it. If you want to depend on federally funded or state funded grants to seed an operation that eventually can be sustainable within a reasonable period of time, that's okay. But don't be writing grant because it's just not sustainable. Because we're going to come time you're not going to get one and you're out of business. Okay? So lesson learned from me. Now, I get this out earlier. On this here, I was working through it today, and really, I'm not going to read through it, but this is kind of an executive summary of where we are today. But first, if I have to make any reference to it, I will, or I'll take questions. It's probably better. Let me move from the sustainable side to the community side. We have underserved, we have food deserts, we have need to feed, we have need to create awareness about local food, education about local food, cooking local food properly. And we also have very skillful people that know how to teach nutrition and wellness, which is your hospital systems and others. Okay? We are going to partner with all them. But I thought to myself, well, big deal. You're just adding someone else into the mix. What are we contributing to? A lot of nothing. Okay? Yeah, we're connected to the dots. So, I was thinking about 40% food waste in the United States. And I thought, something's wrong here. So, after several discussions with the board and the committee, we have a board and committee for this project, brought in Scott with University Church. We brought in Jill with Food for Thought. We brought in Michelle Marks with Empuzzlement, which is a private sector food bank. Most of you know of our public sector food banks, which is Northwest Ohio Food Bank here, and Seagate over there. That's public sector, and they have to follow a lot of rules and regs to do what they do. But private sector food banks don't. They cover a gap of need that the other two don't. And it's typically that low to middle America group where the husband or the wife or both lose their job on a temporary basis, but are so embarrassed that they're having trouble putting food on the table. They can go to the private sector food bank that will provide this for them. They stay off the radar screen, and then they get back on. They get their job, they get back on. So it really is an interesting dynamic between the food banks around here. Back to these guys. We talked about the food waste. Why is it wasted? Lots of reasons. Number one, farmer, start with the farmer. The farmer will grow something, and maybe too much of something, and it all happens to ripen at the same time. So you got way too much of something. Okay, that's number one. Number two, maybe they can't sell it all, so what do? They'll till it right back in. Okay, or they would have gleaned it, they would have taken it from the field, and it's sitting on a pallet somewhere, but they can't get rid of it, so it rots. They pitch it. Okay, like says this is bad. We can do better with this. So what we decided to do, and we just rolled it out last week, we did the second one today, and we know tomorrow thing, is we put a combination of 3 nonprofits together that each provide a piece to the pie. And what it amounts to is this. I go out and try to spread the word that when a farmer has too much of something, to call me. Because then I call Scott, who calls Food for Thought, and eventually, depending on the mix of the food, could go to an Empuzzlement food bank.
Shelf life.
What's that?
Basically, depending on shelf life.
Yes, yes, exactly. A lot of stuff, the shelf life is 2 days. Like you better get it right away. Yeah, eat on the way home maybe. But Scott is providing the gleaning. That's why he's been talking about that today. And that has to happen within 24 to 48 hours. That's it. The gleaning is taking fruit off and the farmer's donating that. So whatever you glean, you keep. Or you give to your people, your congregation, or your patron. Food for Thought has the ability to provide the vehicles. We have 2 trailers, a couple pickup trucks. Not ideal. We do need a refrigeration truck or a refrigeration van. That's ideal down the road. Now here's the deal. They could go glean and take it. Well, what if you're gleaning like you did, just strawberries? Now, if you had 20 people out there gleaning strawberries and you filled 2 trailers full of strawberries, you can't possibly eat them. So the beauty of our food bank is they take it to the food bank and say, we got all these strawberries, all these corn on the cobs, pickles, cucumbers, peppers, whatever. As an image, you put it all on the table and say, third for you, third for you, third for you. But you know, you still got the same stuff. So the food bank says, no, wait a minute. Why don't you give me some of what you got, and you go on the shelf there and pick out something of equal value. So now you take it back to the University Church or Food for Thought, and now you have a variety of it. And we just worked this out. I think it's a wonderful idea. Let's see if it shakes. We did you did plants last week, live plants, and the strawberries today and tomorrow. So, in closing, and I won't go over this, I'll take a couple of questions so we'll get to see. And this so-called food hub is not a food hub. It's really a facilitator of food of the supply chain. It doesn't compete with the private sector. It augments what they're doing. And what we're trying to do is get back to basics. We're trying to offer more options for our small farmers to grow. And we're also taking food that would normally be wasted and bring it into the community. We'll see how this goes. We're 6 months into a 2-year grant. And that's where we are. Any questions?
So for the small-time producer, the small-time farmer, who's not a member of Maumee Valley Growers, how do they eventually get their way into being the small farmers who can get their food aggregated to go to competitive?
Step by step is the right answer. And I'll tell you why. I can't overpromise to the farmers, and I can't overpromise to the buyers, to your ships. Okay. One thing at a time. Start small with a handful of farmers and sell out to a certain group of chefs. When they sell out, that answers your question, because I will immediately go to another farmer that can either offer more volume of the same or a variety of something else. And we will add a farm or two, we will add a chef or two, we will add a farm or two, we will add a chef or two. And we will ratchet it up like that in a stepwise fashion, not over-promising. And my hope is this first year, which will, technically done in October, we would have all systems in place. Not doing a lot of buying, but just everything is working. We made mistakes. All right, let's put it this way. If we make mistakes, which we will, we made small mistakes. Nothing that someone can't forgive us for. Year 2, we add to it, add volume and variety. Now, of course, quality is most important. And by the way, the other thing Maumee Valley Growers is doing is we're partnering with Ohio State Extension, who just wrote a grant last month and entered it to provide group gap and gap training. Maumee Valley Growers will be the group gap umbrella or entity, and the farmers will be the certified gap farmers. And we put some money aside for them to cover some of their costs, because there's a cost to be certified, and for the farmers. And so in time, 2 years, 3 years max, we will have certified farmers to food safety certified farmers. The very next step will be organics. We're not there yet. Okay. Again, one thing at a time. So we're riding this crest. We're right at the end. And the last thing I'll say is the structure that will keep us together is software. Software that's not being used in Toledo. There's about a dozen different softwares out there. And what does the software do that is not being done in Toledo? All the food on the front end from the farmer is pre-sold before it moves. Now what happens, the farmer takes it to the distributor and says, here's what I got. The distributor says, thank you very much, I hope I can sell it. And they can sell it or they can not. It rots or not. The farmer doesn't know what they get until the distributor does what they do. So before we even touch anything, everything will be pre-sold, and this is where it's happening. Manufacturing, it was called lean manufacturing. Now it's coming into food. So fine. And there is resistance. But once you use it, it's great because it links your farmer to your chef. You go online, all these things are pictures of what a farmer offers. You click with their name and the price. You click, oh, I need this, and I need this. This is the chef clicking on it. Oh, by the way, I don't have enough of that, so I have to go to another farmer that provides it. No problem. Click. Tool simple. Questions? Yep.
A question about the grant. So you originally got the grant for a specific,
It was
some
the
sort of project.
feasibility study determining if a food hub makes sense in Northwest Ohio. That was a year ago, yes.
Yes.
You're still going on that grant money? I'm just
That
wondering
one's
how-
done. That one's done. That was 25 grand. The grant indicated there was enough interest. Wrote another one. That's the one we're on now, it's a 2-year grant. That's the implementation grant. So that's what-
I was just interested in what would the grant say? This is, it's kind of nebulous. It's kind of like.
No, you gotta be real specific.
That's what I'm wondering. How it sounded like it's changed. So it's
It has. Well, that's why I got nervous, because the whole purpose of what we were doing changed, like, early on.
Right. And someone, how did you keep it, and what?
Well, I called the grants administrator, DC, and I said, okay, we have an issue here. What do you want to do? And
And they were
she,
just willing to.
do you know why? Because I was honest. I told them up front. I was willing to get the money back. And I said, you know what? But there's other things we can do too. Give me a little time to investigate. They gave me 6 months, and now we're in our 7th or 8th month. Now we figured it out.
And I would argue, or make the point as someone who's been watching Joe go through this process, that it worked exactly. Because we got an answer. And then
Yes.
we knew that we had to make a course change. And
Yes.
so, if Joe hadn't gone through this process, we'd still be all going, we need a food hub, we need a food hub.
Exactly.
And so I think it worked. And I have found too that with grants administrators, they love it when you're honest and you say, we learned something here, and now, they will often alter the scope of the grant, work with you. But I feel like we really found out what you really were after.
I think it's
Exactly.
a lot more important, actually. I think because you plugged into something. Food hubs are not working. Clearly, they're not making profit.
Financially, they're
And
tough.
so maybe you're looking at something to work better in an urban area as opposed to suburban areas or on the
That's
country.
a great point.
You're creating something that might be able to be duplicated and be more effective.
Exactly.
So in that sense, you're really doing something very good.
Well, I hope so. We're trying to put it together.
I want to ask you about the
2
software.
steps forward, 1 step back.
You said that it is, I know it's going to be based on software because you have to have all that database. Do you have that software? Are you creating that software?
Do I have it?
Yeah.
I was going to buy it today. I didn't get to it. I'm going to buy it tomorrow.
Okay, just checking. I don't know. I know a little bit about software. You got to create it.
Oh, it exists. There's about a dozen of this model of software that exists in the United States.
Yeah.
I've narrowed it down to 2 or 3 that I really like, actually 2. And I've been vacillating back and forth which one to go. They're different models. One is $795 per year. That's the only cost. The other one is 5% of sales, which could be a lot more than $795. So, but when I look at them both, I'm getting more help from the one that costs more than I am from the one that would be more off the shelf. But I love the off the shelf one the best. It's so simple. So I decided to do both.
Not bad, you gotta try
And,
both out.
and we'll let them work.
Can you say which ones they are?
Yeah.
Oh.
$795 one is local Orbit out of Ann Arbor. The one that's 5% of sales is Azodi out of Columbus. Yes, you've been raising your hand.
I just have a question. I'm so excited about the Food Hub. Is this something that, is the software something that can forecast like the next season? So like the farmer will know?
No, it
Okay.
forecasts the next week.
Okay.
And that, by the way, is way too much for a chef and way too much for your distributor. Their forecast is next hour. Okay, and that's the problem. That's the problem. So it's forcing the chef. The chef has already said this is not going to work. Everyone told me in town here it's not going to work. But I can see everywhere else it's worked. And I even talked with the existing software people, which were very nice to me, but they said it wouldn't work. The legacy programs, the ones that exist. All they need to do is know 70 or 80%, this is the buyer or the chef, of what they're going to do next week. And to me, that's very reasonable because you're doing the same thing every week with slight changes, especially when your audience, like a hospital, it's your employee base, it's your patients. They don't change much, okay? So you kind of know what you're doing.
Well, yeah, but if you're looking at a crop that is like gonna take 3 weeks or
And a new
7
crop.
weeks to fruit,
Yeah.
you know, it seems like how would a farmer know how to plan for that, or
That's a different cycle. What I was describing is the economic cycle, the
okay.
logistics cycle. And I'll work on that. I mean, so I just do it myself. But what you're asking for is what is commonly done throughout the United States. Is typically the month of November. All the farmers meet one time, get them together one time to meet, to discuss how the last season went. That means volume, costs, variety, and obviously a lot has to do with weather. Which is the first thing out of the mouth. Weather. At that time, once they figure out how it went, they will all get together and say, okay, so then let's say we had 30 farmers in the room, okay? And this is a European model. You will do ball peppers, you will do jalapenos, you will do this, you will do this, this, and this. And there'll be duplication of that, okay? And that's the hard part. In Europe, that's all they do. You become the pepper guy. You become the sweet corn guy. And what we do now is the farmers grow everything. One farmer grows everything. So we have to modify and change a little bit, which it's just a matter of communication. I was on the phone today, I called the farmer, I said, look, I got a couple tomato guys. He says, I got a third person that can do tomatoes. How do you feel about that? How do you feel? Do you have enough product for us coming up? Yeah, okay, fine, I'll come. Build tomatoes, do peppers. And that's what they're doing. Yes.
If this system is cloud-based and your farmers can access it, and they can see who else has got everything too.
Yes.
I mean, it shouldn't be just through the hub. It shouldn't be just through whoever's the distributor. Every farmer that's in that should be able to look at that and determine how many people are growing tomatoes or carrots or whatever, and see what needs to be grown. You see?
Well, yeah, the market will dictate eventually. Like I said, you start slow
Yeah.
because you can't predict a whole lot, and eventually you get to the point where the major organizations, like I'm describing, they'll do $5 million a year. Okay, that's doable. That's it. Not do a ton of that, but one step at a time.
Yeah.
And will the software, does the zoning do anything, or local over, do they do anything to facilitate communication between producer and buyer? So, for example, if Stacy was like, man, I wish I could get somebody to grow some elderberry for me. No one's growing elderberry locally, but there's a market for it. It's having to go somewhere else, if it's dollars or somewhere else now. Is there any way that we could connect
Yes.
those dots.
And it's usually the chef that drives it.
Yeah.
The chef will say, I need this, or I wish I had that, or I need more of that. Well, guess what? It's going to sell out, which is one indicator. And the other is if you don't have it, they're going to say, boy, I wish I had it. You know, I got to go down to Gordon's just to get something like this, just a little batch of stuff, which they're doing.
So maybe after the farmers all get together and talk about the weather, there could be a second meeting where the chefs come. And
No,
talk
chefs are
about-
there too, I'm sorry.
Oh, they're all there.
Farmers, chefs, distributors,
Okay.
all there.
All at that meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
How do you get a seat?
Yeah, that sounds exciting. Who's
Well,
cooking?
You seem pretty eager, but when I tried to do it last November, there was a lot of seats available. But it was first time.
Yeah.
So a lot of it was done on a personal basis to get going. Next year will be the first time. It'll be open to everybody.
How was the was it more restaurateurs or more farmers represented? More buyers?
You know, it's interesting who you talk to. If you talk to the distributor, they'll tell you that, man, you know, we got plenty of sales. We can sell to a lot of people, but we can't get the farmers. We can't get the products. We can't get the produce. Okay? You talk to the farmer, and the farmer says, I can grow anything, I can grow all kinds of stuff, and vines are not a problem, but I'm not going to grow unless you sell them. So it's the catch-22.
Yeah.
Any other questions? You know, usually I turn around and I have some wounds on my back.
Well, how do people get a hold of you, Jim?
I have some cards. I'll leave them up here. Anyone can call me for anything. It's wide open. It's a moving target. A lot of balls in the air. If you ask me back in 3 months, I'll tell you something good.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you, Joe, for Lackey. Really appreciate you sharing.
Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for coming.